We pop up on Twitch.
Woohoo! God, I haven't been on Twitch in a hot minute.
It says live.
Yep. You live, boy. You live. Look at that. Indeed.
I. There we go. We are unmuted now.
Oh, good. That's a plus. It's good not to be muted.
So yes, we are back for our spring anime of 2024 initial thoughts. We have 12 shows to talk about
Oh
today.
boy.
And I'm using a new setup, so it'll take a bit. All right. And the first show we'll be talking about is The Banished Former Hero Lives as He Pleases.
No, that's mine. Oh, okay, that's right. You know what? I really need to bring up because I want to make sure to mention. Wait, see, now I'm like all over the place. I should have already done this, but it's fine. Oh, here we go. You have it on there? No. So yes, sorry. Filling air. I am just all over the place. I didn't even mean to. So this was definitely okay. Y'all, everyone who's ever watched me and watching um anime knows that I tend to just watch the if there's an isekai or a fantasy anime genre of any sort of thing, I will generally watch it. Good, bad, or in between. I'll at least give it a shot. I'll at least watch it. And a lot of the ones I do tend to kind of fall under the frame of it's my guilty pleasure and it's just because that's what I watch. Though I do watch other things from time to time. This one, yeah, I think I've gotten 4 episodes into it and just was like, I think I'm done with it. I think I'm just, no. This one's done by Studio Dean.
Okay. What did this show do?
It's just not very like okay, so the initial premise was interesting. The initial premise was um it was a it was a hero from another world who got reincarnated.
Okay.
He has his abilities that he had as the hero, but in his reincarnation form, he got no power according to this world. And he's kind of hidden the fact that he even has powers to begin with because they wouldn't understand where he got them from or how to measure them because it doesn't register to them.
So this is a fantasy world to a different fantasy world
Correct.
instead of like regular world to fantasy world.
Correct.
Interesting.
So I thought that would be interesting, right? I'm like, okay, cool, awesome. And the very beginning of this whole thing, because he is, I think he was the eldest son and heir to a noble family, but because he, according to them, doesn't have any power, they banish him. And he's actually happy about this because he didn't want to have anything to do with nobility. He didn't want to be the quote unquote hero. He did his job in his other world, basically died from it. And now he's like, I just want to live a normal life. I just want to do my own thing. I just want to go my own places. I don't want to be the hero. I don't want to be some hierarchy, whatever. I just want to live. I just want to live peacefully. So I was like, okay, cool. It's interesting to see how this kind of goes about. And then immediately he meets, um, who apparently he already knew of, the princess of the kingdom, fleeing from some bad guys who he stops, and then he just joins up with her. And I'm like, okay, your motivations from this get-go is you didn't want to have anything to do with any of that BS. You're like, no, I'm done. I've been a hero. I don't want to be a hero. I just want to live a normal life. What are you doing? Why are we here? Like, okay, I get you saw her in trouble. You wanted to save her. Cool. Why are we continuing to follow her? Go your own way. Do your own thing. It's the kingdom's worry. It's the kingdom's problem. You're involved in this now. You're involving yourself in this now. And she's letting because you're powerful, because you kind of showed your power a little bit to her. So she sees it as bonus. Um, and then, of course, so this whole thing is centered around demons trying to take control, but apparently his father, the one who banished him, is conjoined with the demons wanting to help them to take control. So every time he thwarts a scheme, it's his father who's the one who's doing it, and who has no idea who this. He keeps hearing about this lone warrior who keeps getting in the way, but he doesn't know that it's his son.
This is gonna be weird at the end.
And I'm just like, I don't know what I signed up for, but it wasn't this.
Hmm.
And then to make matters worse, like, okay, I don't. So his motivation's out the freaking window. And every character that we have met so far has either been hyper cliched or I just so one dimensional, it's not even funny.
Okay.
And so I'm just like, I don't like the characters. I don't like any of the characters. And like, I don't understand. Like, I know what you want to do. Like, I see as the story is going, I'm like, okay, so you're going to become the hero again. But I feel like they could have done it in a better way.
Hmm.
Instead of just being like, well, he met up the princess. Now he's going along with it. And here we are. And he's just going to join in battle and become the hero again. And I'm like, if like he had a destination he was going to, and he just keeps bumping into her, but he's not really a guard for her, but he keeps finding her in trouble, so he keeps doing the right thing because he is a hero and he can't really walk away from that life. Cool, I could go with that. But just to be like, oh, you look like you're in trouble, let's follow you. I'm like, and even she's saying like, well, I know you didn't want to get involved, but I thank you for coming along to help. And it's like, is this plot convenience? Is this plot armor? What are we doing here? Either way, I don't like it. No, just stop it. Just generally stop it. So yeah, I watched 4 episodes just to see if anything was going to get better, if they were going to introduce a better character, if their story was going to get more interesting, and it just all feels like it falls flat.
Okay.
I mean, they introduce a elf blacksmith, which I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I was like, interesting.
Elf blacksmith, but her only thing is that she's essentially She works until she finished a job, ignoring everything else, which includes eating and sleeping. So basically, they find her every single time passed out due to lack of sleep and food in front of her blacksmithing place, and I'm just like, it's why? And the princess comes in like, oh, she's here again. I gotta heal her, get her back up to health, and then give her some food, and then she'll be fine. And I'm just like, why? Just why? Why?
It, I've seen characters like that.
I have too.
I
That's why I
haven't
said
seen. Yeah,
it's either
this is
cliche in their way they're doing it, and like hyper cliche, or it's just one note characters.
yeah. So it's like I've seen characters like that in the fact that it's a character that like pours itself like wholly into one thing, neglecting all everything else,
Yeah.
and you see them pop up from time to time, and you're like, oh, that's so and so. They always do this, and it's kind of funny if they have something else to them, like
Yeah.
if they could be normal for a second, like in another scene.
And they almost devoted an entire episode just to her.
Yeah, like
I was just like, why?
yeah.
Why? Why?
Okay.
I feel like the premise had a good direction it could have gone in. I just feel like they just kind of they're like, we're gonna be different, and then they're like, okay, now we're gonna do everything like everyone else does. So yeah, I couldn't keep myself doing it. I was like 4 episodes, I'm like, I'm done.
Okay. So like good concept, poor execution.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Um which character did you dislike the least?
Oh God, that's a tough one. That's an honest tough one. Because here's the problem. The reason why I say it's a tough one is that each one of them had such potential,
Mhm.
such potential to be great. Even the main character, I feel like he had such potential to be great. But his so his background gave him that potential, but then the character himself, he's like the stoic, monotone soldier type. Like I don't get any emotions from him. I don't get any. He's just, oh, whatever. Oh yeah, we'll go here. Okay. Oh, hey, cool. I'm just like, do you have anything to you? Every character is so one-dimensional. The princess is always the princess in trouble, in distress, always needs to be saved. Main character, always the one saving. She has another bodyguard, which is a female knight. Again, could have been interesting. But what she does is she attempts to save the princess, fails, and the main character has to step in. So I'm just like, I got nothing. I mean, none of them have any. None of them have any redeeming qualities to them. None of them. I can't say any one of them.
Okay.
And because they had such potential is the reason why I'm even as upset behind that, because it's like they could have done so much better with it. They
Mhm.
just the way they played them, the execution again just was so lacking. So I've never done
I
that
think
before.
I was like, I think this might be a first.
I have never done that before, but again, it was so disappointing. I mean, yeah, even the scores on AnyList for it, gives it so far like a 46%. I see it. It's just feels wrong.
Okay. Um. So continuing the show is kind of out of the door. Out of the door. Um. What would you add to the show to get you to keep watching?
Character. Like, do you got
For
it? Huh?
for me, I'm interested in like the whole father like the father doesn't know his son is foiling all his plans. I'm like, I
That's
have
interesting.
low I have low hopes for that being executed well from everything
Yeah,
that I'm hearing,
yeah.
but I am curious.
Like again, like I said, if they had a way of like, I feel like they could have been like, okay, as the main character, he obviously knows his parents, his dad doesn't care much for him and thinks that he's useless and a waste of space. He probably knows that his dad was going to get rid of him. And I guess in the beginning, he kind of did even say, like, oh, about time kind of situation, because he was kind of expecting it. If he was expecting it, I feel like he could have had a plan and been like, this is what I want to do. I want to I want to go to this town. I want to build up some money because I don't think my father's going to give me any he's just going to banish me basically because he just wants me to die and not be a burden to him basically. I'm going to go there, I'm going to become an adventurer, make some money, and then I'm going to buy me a piece of land somewhere and make become a farmer or whatever. Like if that was his goal and he had a plan, and then as he's executing that plan, he keeps running into the princess coincidentally or something else. He sees not even with the princess, but then he sees a bad guy who he recognizes as bad and then tries to follow them and ends up getting involved with the princess again through that way kind of situation.
Mhm.
um that would be more interesting to me.
Okay.
And then also then just having the characters have more unique depth to them, just something that sets them apart other than just like their features or what they're doing or how they're doing it. Like everything just seemed so cliched. If you had something that made it more original, like the plot itself is, I could go with it, but no.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of like agree with that because as far as and it's funny because you mentioned like running into the princess instead of staying like from time to time instead of staying with the princess the whole time, and then
Hmm.
also for me like the blacksmith, how like that's a character that you see, like you see her from time to time also,
Hmm.
and then also you do see her in moments where she's not like exhausted and you have to like resuscitate her. um
See, like there again, like there had been a perfect opportunity. Like he broke his sword. Like if he wasn't with the princess at the time he did that and he breaks his sword and he has to go to a blacksmith and he hears about this blacksmith and she just happens to have been by to see the blacksmith as well for a different reason.
mhm.
That way the two of them bump into each other again, completely by coincidence. He just happened to be going there, she had another reason to go there, and they run across each other.
Yeah,
I could see that.
yeah, and I think it would even make it funnier with like how hard she works is that her reputation and her like her work that she does is so good that like rumor has spread around, but
Yeah.
because of that she like devotes herself like wholly into her work and like exhausts herself, and like it could be like the princess was friends with her, she always comes by to check on her and stuff like that. So yeah, that would have been like a really cool way to go about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could have
um
been. That's why I said it's not. I'm not mad at it. I'm more just disappointed. The potential was there, and they just didn't go with it.
okay. um were there any standout moments?
No, there really wasn't. Like I had such high hopes in the beginning because of it played out. It was like, okay, a hero from another realm gets reincarnated, but because his powers don't equate to what they consider power in this world, they don't see the power that he has, and that's fine with him. Like he could have been like, "Oh, I'll show you I have power," and then he would have been accepted. But he was like, "No, I don't. I don't want to deal with that anymore. I've been the hero. I don't want to be the hero anymore. I don't want to put myself in danger. I just want to live a normal life. And I would have been fine with that. Like that would have been perfectly fine. But again, when everything from that point on, halfway through the first episode, I was kind of like, really? Is this where we're going? Is this it? Why? Even if he said, Princess, okay, I will escort you to the next nearest town so you can at least reach there, I would have been fine with that. But like he continues to travel with her. And I'm just like, it's plot. It's plot convenience. It's all it is. It's literally it. So I'm like, because of that, like I remember the beginning and then everything else after that. Like I remember the elf blacksmith only because she was annoying me. And then yeah, after that I couldn't even care less. So it's like not even any standout moments for me.
Interesting. Okay. Starting off strong.
Yeah, starting off strong for the new season. So
All right, let's see. The next show we have is G Jisan Basan Wakagairu, or Grandpa and Grandma Turn Young Again.
okay. I know you go on like alphabetical usually, but there again, this is another one where I was like, I thought it was interesting. Did you watch this one?
No.
Did you watch this one? Okay.
It looks so. I scraped 5 shows out, and
Okay.
like I wanted to watch everything, like
I'm
normal.
sure.
But yeah.
So, okay, this is an interesting premise. All right.
hmm
This is an interesting premise.
hmm
These are two elderly people who, um, at the very beginning of the episode, they're out in they have some acreage because they have like a garden and like some trees and stuff like that. So they had repaired a tree that had been struck by lightning, I think, and they tried putting it back together and they brought it back to life. And when they're going through, they find that there was a golden apple on one of the trees.
Okay.
So they take it, never seen it before. They're like, all right, well, I will take it. So they take it and they go back home, eat it, and then the following morning they wake up and they're young again. So I thought in this interesting way, I was like, okay, so they're young again. Are we like they kind of seemed like they had a romance that they're still passionate about, but because they were older, they were just kind of oh humdrum kind of situation. We still love each other, whatever. I thought, oh, they're gonna be young again. We're gonna get into some misadventures. They're being young, and because they're gonna, try doing young people things even though they're old, in actuality.
Dust off
And
that bucket list.
yeah, exactly. I
Let's
thought,
go.
are they gonna do some things together, or are they gonna do some romantic things together? Is he gonna like re woo her, court her as being like, oh, we're young again, we can go crazy, have at it, I'll take you out because he mentioned something about never being able to afford to her the finer things for her that he always wanted to go places with her, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a nice romance type thing going on here. I'm for it. Sure, why not? No, that's not what I got. So what ends up happening is that it is essentially, and let me see here. Yeah. So genres, even that any list for that is first and foremost comedy, fantasy, and then at the end, romance. I should have known. I've never looked at the list up. So they enjoy showing other people inexplicably that they're younger again and freaking them out. They do enjoy that, don't get me wrong, and that is funny on occasion. But Each time. Okay, so having just watched like the first two episodes, essentially they have it's mini episodes inside of each episode.
Okay.
So like now they're doing this, now they're doing this, now they're doing this, now they're doing this, and I'm like, can we just stick to one? Can we see for this through all the way? Can we get a better like feel? If you're doing a character type thing, I want to know the characters. I don't want to see them like they started it off again so strong. Start of it was so strong because you got the feeling that he felt bad because they grew up poor and he had to like fight for a love for her and they had to make concessions and stuff like that. I'm like, I wanted to see that. I wanted to be like, I wanted him to try to like redo some of that stuff and be like, we never got a chance to do this. I'm doing it now. And you see flashbacks of like when they were younger before and trying to and couldn't do that, or they tried to do it and it failed. And now he's actually like succeeding and now doing that kind of situation. That's the kind of thing I was expecting and I wanted to see. Instead, what I got was there apparently was a game between like a what do they call them in Japan? Like when schools do the sports day, basically, except it was with I guess retirement homes or like the neighborhoods against each other kind of situation.
That's interesting. I think I've seen
And
something similar to
and the other neighborhood always wins, but now that they're younger, they can
that.
beat them because apparently the other neighborhood had the grandsons of them doing the work kind of situation, and the other neighborhood that they're in didn't have any grandsons to do that for, so they always lost. But now they come in and do. Yeah, I'm just like, okay, this is what we're doing here. This is like I'm cool, like and, and she, like okay, one highlight moment. I'll say this now. One highlight moment I had from it was they were in the middle of a tug of war situation. And like, of course, the grandpa, the young grandpa now, was putting in most of the work, but they were struggling. And one of the older grandmothers with the young grandma comes in and goes, you can see her like whispering. She's like, I can't do that. I can't do that. What are you saying? No, I can't do that. And eventually she agrees. She's like, fine, I'll do it. And she hands her some pom poms and goes, fight, basically cheering him on or whatever. You can do it. And that motivated him to give the last pull so they could win. And then afterwards, she's like, I'm so embarrassed. And the other woman's like, see, I told you, men are so easy. They can, and I'm just like, all right, that was cute. That was adorable. But I wanted that more on a personal level, not with them doing this event or whatever. It's like, come on. I guess so. In the other one, the one we just talked about previously, I had zero expectations. It was a fantasy. We're going into it. I'm like, okay, interesting. This one, I had some expectations for, and I'm not getting it. It's just nothing about it as I'm getting, or I'm getting like little tidbits, little pieces, and I'm just like, that's not what I was expecting. Okay. So and then again, this thing that they do where it comes to like episodic, mini episodic, like we're already in an episode. Don't make me do an episode inside of an episode. I don't like that. I just want to see the episode. So it's like you're doing that, and I get it. It's probably because this is based on a manga, and they're following kind of how the manga goes, and I'm sure the manga does the same sort of thing where it kind of skips around like that or whatever. But I'm just like, and I know it's episodic or mini episodic inside of it because they keep doing. You know how they do the in between each one, they'll have that when they finish one little skit that they're doing, they'll have like the characters in like a still frame saying something or doing something, and you're just like, oh, we're done with that now, huh? Okay, we're moving on. Next phase. You know what I mean? Because then they go into a completely different thing
It's like
with
a
the
commercial break
characters.
kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh, I no, I can't, I just can't. So yeah, I unfortunately after there's 2 episodes on this one, I was just like, I'm done. I can't do it. Again, I had such high hope. I wanted a drama romance type situation, and maybe the thing about it is maybe they'll start aging at some point, or I some crazy thing happens, and they just show each other their love, or something in that regards. Like that's what I wanted, and it's just I'm feeling like we're just getting silly, funny, like let's freak people out that old people are now young again, and let's have them do things that they wouldn't do when they were older, but now that they're younger they're going to do it now.
When you mention some of this, it gave me the thought of like either this is a reset and like they're gonna continue from where they are now and then like be like 160-year-old, 80-year-olds, or this is a temporary thing and like it's either gonna fade away or just they're gonna wake up and be old. And
So
that
this is
and that
done okay, go ahead.
I was like, and that makes me sad.
Yeah, well, this is done by Studio Gecko, and they're a fairly new studio. They only have one, two, three, four, five, six other things that they've done, and they only started in 2023.
Okay. Interesting.
And just looking at just I mean, I recognize none of the things that they have done previously.
Yeah, 2023, we're here.
Yeah, I'm just like, really? This is the first thing I even recognize I've watched that you've done? That does not give me high hopes for anything else.
Mhm.
But
As
I
far
mean, go ahead.
as far as the characters go, like I know we're centered around the main two characters, but like, was there any interesting characters that showed up?
So, God, I remember now. You say that now. I remember this. The the granddaughter
Their granddaughter.
their granddaughter
Okay.
really loves the grandfather now,
Well,
because now he's younger again and now he looks good. Now she really loves the grandfather to the point where the parents had to tell him, "No, you're coming home. I want to stay. No, you're coming home. Go stop. No." And
it's just
the grandmother had to smack the grandfather, even though he wasn't responsible for anything, other
it's
than the
like
fact that he's like, I didn't do anything.
shut up, yes you did.
Yeah.
uh,
So
interesting. Cool, cool, cool. Um, I'm still curious about this one. I may pick it up.
you may,
Uh,
I mean, you may like it, and you may find it, because I know you don't really care about the episodic nature of things, and it's a lighthearted comedy is basically what it comes down to.
mhm,
Lighthearted comedy. It's just not what I was expecting, and I think that took it out for me.
mhm.
So I'm not gonna say okay. So previous one, I would have to give like if I were going 0 to 100 on it, I'd give it a score. I'd give it like a 70, and like maybe even bordering below that. This one I would still give it like an 80. Like it's not bad. It's just not what I wanted out of the show.
Mhm.
So I mean, I may be being, selfish about that, but it's what I feel like for it. So
Okay. Cool. All right, the next show we're gonna be talking about is Kaiju 8 Go, or Kaiju number 8.
I was curious about this one.
Yeah. So,
But this one came late in the season, right? Like it only just recently started the first couple episodes, I want to say.
there are a lot of shows that are starting late this season, which
Mm-hmm.
we aren't able to cover because they haven't come out yet. But yeah, I don't know because I started watching stuff like 2 weeks ago or a week ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, cool. I got through as many as I could get through. So I
Yeah, see,
this show I got recommended from some coworkers.
so like most shows are already on episode like 5 or 6. This show is only on episode 3.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure this one started real late. That's why I didn't, because normally what I do when I go to it, like I'll look for like the first week or two as animes are starting to come out. If I
Hmm.
don't already go to Anglist and know what I want to watch, I'll just go to like Crunchyroll or whatever and just like look at their new releases like every, couple of days, for like the first 2 weeks just to see what's coming out
Hmm.
and pick from there. And then after that, I never go to the that again because I already have everything I want bookmarked, so why would I?
Yeah. There's they have like a new simulcast section, little bar on their like
Mm.
main feed or main homepage, and um, after a couple weeks it disappears. So like when if I did follow that, then there'd be a chance where like the feed would like that section of shows would disappear, and then it would get lost in the
Yeah.
newly added stuff, which would be like
Yeah.
it's at like translations of older shows would be in the newly added section, and it would kind of get buried.
See, yeah, oh my God, there are so many. I'm on there right now, and I'm not meaning to detract from this or anything, but I'm on there right
Mm-hmm.
now, and I'm just looking at going, oh yeah, I remember hearing about that, but I never saw that it came. Like, I'm like, oh my God, really? Why are there so many now that I'm just like, oh, hey, oh, I haven't watched that one yet. And this was one of them too. I remember seeing like a YouTube short kind of about this a little bit. So like I kind of looked at it and went, I should probably watch it. But then every time I sit down to watch something, I don't. I go back to my bookmarked and I forget about everything else. I'm just like, okay, what's that? What's new released now? Okay, never good. So
Um, so the next episode is upcoming for the next season. Would you like to do a section for the stuff that started late?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We could do a sweet little bit. Maybe catch back up on like where we were at, or just see if there's anything interesting that's happened.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, Kaiju number 8. Um,
I,
I
sh-
really, I
I hear it's
guess
really good.
I really like this show. Like,
I hear it
it's
looks amazing too.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw the trailer for this show, and I remembered one scene that happened at the end of the first episode,
Mm.
and up until then, I did not remember knowing about this show. Like, I was just watching it. It was very cool. Introduced some really cool characters, um, and then the last scene of the episode happened. And I was like, oh, I saw the trailer for this.
I know that.
Yeah. So yeah. So since you're interested in this show, I will not go into spoilers because I've only watched one episode. But yeah, it is. I will recommend this show because it is very good so far. Looks great. It's funny and action packed. I love
Nice.
the different monsters. Like they are unpredictable, like God Eaters monsters are unpredictable.
Okay, so we're not talking about like your stereotypical Power Rangers type monsters then, huh?
No, it's more like eh, it's like I don't know if they're based on like oh that's kind of like a spider, or like oh that's kind of like eagle. Like it's like they just each monster just feels like it's different than the next.
Okay, fair enough.
So yeah, it's very very interesting. Um, Let me go ahead and go through. Let's see. I've watched one episode. The story's very great. Characters so far. Um, I like. I don't. I don't know what happened to her yet, but I think it's the girl. If from the picture that we have, the girl that's in the back.
Hmm.
Um, she knows the main guy, and she's way different than she used to be. And I'm like, oh no, what happened to you? And um, I don't know. It's just like characters that are really good at what they do
Hmm.
is really really cool. So um,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, so I'm just like highly impressed by her. I was like, ah, she's cool. The main character, he has latent coolness that shows up at times,
Hmm.
but I'm waiting for him to like blossom into like being cool. Um, and there's a new guy, the silver haired guy.
Hmm.
Um, he's the newbie, and he'll surprise you, and I think it's pretty cool.
Fair enough.
100% will continue this show. And are there any standout moments? Um, when the guy showed some of his coolness to lead me to know that he has more coolness, like he has more coolness potential. Like,
I was about to say, I hear the first fight is like amazing.
yeah, like it's when when a character will do something you like he when they basically like turn it on. Like
Hmm.
you don't think he has like well it's like you hear that he can do stuff,
Hmm.
but he doesn't show it at all. And then when the time comes for him to like amp it up, he shows some of it in a way that you know that there's more. And
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
like, okay, okay. I was like, all right, all the rumors are true. So,
He's a
um,
badass.
yeah, like yeah, jumping out of windows and stuff was that was one of that scene was one of my favorite parts. So yeah, all right. The next show we're gonna be talking about is uh Kame Kami wa game ni uteru or God's games we play.
So I this is on my list. I just never got to it.
um
So what's
I
your thoughts on this?
I don't know if I'm smart enough for this show or if I'm supposed
So
or
is it like the same way as like No Game No Life,
it's
where they
funny
come
that you
up
said
with weird things? You're just like, you sound reasonable, but I don't know what just happened.
yes. That's exactly it.
And when I read it, or when I read the synopsis, it gave me those vibes where I'm just like, it sounds like some high level thinking game situation type things like they did in No Game No Life, where you're like having to outthink your, outmaneuver, outthink your opponent kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's like it would be much more impressive to me, but very boring to watch if I could watch it like in observer mode and like I can see everything that's happening. But when they're cutting from one character to another and they're like, oh, and I'm better than you because of this, and I'm better than you because of this. And I'm like, well, I didn't see any of that because y'all keep moving the camera. And, and it's like, maybe I can follow that card. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see how you were following the cards. But y'all kept cutting from angle to angle. So the card went off the screen. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, sure. Whatever you say, sure. Let's keep going. It's intriguing as far as the main concept goes. Like, I want to know what happens. I don't really care about the games because I'm not smart enough to participate in these games. Like if they're playing chess and like doing all these crazy moves and stuff like that, then I'm like, that's kind of cool. That's a higher level of skill than I have in chess. I can see how much better you are than me. But with them like playing this like 3-dimensional memory game with like the cards spinning around the room, and I'm like, sure, you pick the 2 cards that are right. Okay.
So it's essentially like if I tried to show you how to play, or like if I took you to a Magic the Gathering tournament and go, all right, have at it.
Yeah.
Without telling you anything.
Yeah. I'd find the monster or character or item that looks the coolest to me. And I would be like, this is my favorite one. And they're like, you can't use it that way. And I'm like,
but it's my favorite.
Exactly.
But it's all shiny and pretty.
It's my favorite color, though.
It's my favorite color. Yes. Meanwhile, everyone's like, that's horrible. Don't do that. No, don't do
that. Yeah. So, when they're playing the games, I'm like, sure. But the whole concept of the story is basically there's this being from long, long ago that they dug up from permafrost, and now she basically turned the entire world into this like competitive game situation, and she's looking for the best person, and of course the main character is the best person, and they're gonna do something until the end of the series, and I don't know what the goal of the show is because we didn't do an upcoming on this, so I haven't read the synopsis.
Interesting. It's funny, and the recommendations on any list from that though I was just going through it. The actually recommendation, the first one is No Game No Life.
Yep. And that makes perfect sense. But yeah, like if you like No Game No Life, I'm pretty sure you would like this. I'm kind of curious, like, it seems like every episode is going to have a game. So I'm like, one of these 13 games, I'm going to be like, oh, I understand this. But if not, then I'm like, what's the goal of the show? Like, there's certain characters that are kind of interesting, but, like, how is he going to win against her, and how is she gonna win against him?
It's hard when you don't, one, you don't know the stakes, and 2, you don't know if they get okay. So when it comes to stories, right, and especially in the fantasy or quasi fantasy settings or whatever, if you have something that everyone knows, like say for instance, like you said, chess. People know chess. Not everyone's going to know chess, but people usually know enough about chess to at least sort of understand. If that's the situation, you don't, as a storyteller, don't need to put in a lot of explanation on what's going on or how things work, because people already know. That's like saying in a fantasy setting, if I say wagon, you already have a general description in your mind immediately shows up as to what a wagon looks like. It could be a covered wagon. It could be like two wheels and just a body wagon with connected to a horse. It doesn't matter. You still have a general description and kind of know what's going on. If you have something that is completely out of the ordinary, that the game itself does not exist in our world, even if the components for it do, if you don't at least give some sort of explanation as far as like how this works, what's the goal, what's the end game, what do you do to win, how do you win, your viewers or your readers are going to get lost, and they're just going to be like, something happens and everyone goes, he did it, and you're just like, all right, cool, congratulations, I guess. That was a 1 in 1 million chance. You're like, I guess he's really good. It's like taking someone to a poker game who knows nothing about poker. You don't know what winning hand is going to go with what winning hand.
I just like this is a perfect situation. Ray has been watching Suits,
Mm.
and there was a client of theirs that was like in a poker game and they lost their company, and I walk in, and the guy like as they're walking to the game, the guy's like, "Oh, he's a gambling addict. He's not supposed to be here. Why are we meeting here?" Blah blah blah. He's like, "Oh, he's an alcoholic too. Okay," and I'm like, "This is a quick build up to a disaster." And
Yeah.
like he like walks in and he's like, all in $3 million, and I'm like, this is really bad. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's been like 30 seconds that I walk into the room, and I'm like, oh god, something bad's about to happen. And then they like flip over the cards, and it's like a queen and a jack, and he's like, term, and I'm like, I've heard that word before. I don't really know what that means, but it's a queen and a jack, and I know face cards are higher than numbers. Cool. And then it flips over to the other guy, and he's like ace in a face card, and I'm like, I know aces are better than face cards, so this guy wins. And he's like straight, and I'm like, sure. And then he's like, oh, you took all my money and my company, and I'm like, yeah, I knew this was gonna be bad. All right, bye, Ray Ray. I just walked out of the room.
It's like, if you don't understand, someone does something like that, and you're just sitting there going, and they're like, I win. You're like, how did you win? What happened? How did you? No. It's like I said, if you don't at least give some explanation on either what the objective is or how things work, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose your audience.
One thing, so in the first episode they play memory game. So basically, like you lay all the cards out, and then you flip to the match.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he was like, could you shuffle them again and lay them out again, because I counted, like he was like a not only is he a card counter, he's like an ultra card counter. It was like everything that you just did, it's all in here. I know what every card is. So he's like, oh, okay, I see how we're gonna be. I'm like, what? And he's like, okay, cool. Let me flip them around in these like rotating like paths, and there's
Mm-hmm.
two of them, and they're kind of crisscrossing and like waving back and forth. And he's like, oh, I see, the orbit is never the same. And I'm like, it is the same. It goes this way, and then it goes back, and then it goes back to the same way. And he's like, no, they're different. And I'm like, they're not different.
No, yeah.
And he's like, we're gonna go with they're different. And I'm like, sure. So um and that's fine. Like, make up arbitrary, like, this is anime. If these are the rules of the show, then these are the rules of the show. I can decide to go with them, or I can decide next show. So
So
I
that's
decide,
fine.
sure.
That's
Let's see what
fine.
happens.
I will say it. That's fine, as long as they keep with that continuity. If like these are the rules that you set aside, even though they make no sense in the real world, that's fine. Just make sure that you continue that same logic all the way through, and then later on don't contradict yourself, because then I'm going to be sitting there going, why did we change? Why did we do it this way this time, but this way this time? And if you just give me no explanation as far as why this worked this time, and this time, you've lost me. Like
So
if these are the rules you building your world off of, fine. Just make sure you keep with them.
yes. So um, I'm at like they touched my like suspension of disbelief, and it's a little wobbly. So I'm like, I give you another episode when I decide to continue the show, and if you say another thing like, "Oh, this is the rule," and I'm like, "No, it's not," then then I'm then I'm probably not gonna continue
Yeah.
because yeah, I'm like, I
Yeah,
know
you have to base what you have at least somewhat in reality. Like there has to be some logic involved with it because if there's not,
and it's
again,
like
you lose your audience.
and it may be a technical thing
Mm,
because when the cars were rotating in that angle, it was CG. And
mm,
like that's the easiest way to animate that. And then to show that they're moving in all different directions, you just like rotate, and they just slowly like go back and forth. And I'm like, I know how to do that. Like technically wise, I know how to do that, and I know what's all set up. I'm like, you just set it for go from this degree to that degree and rotate back and forth. So when he's like, it's infinite, I'm like, no, it's not. Let me show you. I'm gonna open up Maya and like calculate it for
if I do this 100 times, I still have a left hand, I still have a right hand. It's still
it.
there.
So yeah. So hopefully the next game is more interesting and like um I like it does I don't know. It's like I'm assuming because some of the games that other characters like the background characters were playing were like run away from thing and jumping over lava and stuff like that. I'm assuming the games are going to get much more interesting.
Hmm.
So um it's a very interesting show. I'm very curious about what the end goal is. I hope that I my belief doesn't conflict with their explanation of the games. But other
Hopefully.
than that, yeah, it seems like a fun show.
Fair enough.
Um, let's see the characters. Um, like the main characters, I guess boss lady is kind of cool because she's she's like she's in charge, but she has no like a mm, I don't know. It's like she doesn't know how to like play any of the games, but she knows how to coordinate everything to happen. Like she knows how to coordinate all the matches and everything. So she's
Hmm.
like, "Cool, our stars here. Come over to this room. Meet this person. Y'all introduce each other. Y'all play the games." And then she just disappears, and I'm like, she don't know what's going on in here,
Yeah.
does she?
She's as clueless as the rest of us.
um, so yeah, I'm like, hey, somebody like me. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
how to play this game, but yeah, um, yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to see what happens next. All right, the next show we're gonna be talking about you, Konosuba season 3.
This is all you, my man. This is all you.
Where did you leave off with Konosuba?
I maybe started season 2 and then just stopped because, yeah, I can't with that show. I seriously cannot.
It is so funny because it's like this is 100% my type of fantasy.
Oh yeah.
Or it's just a fun adventure. It makes no sense. It breaks all the rules. The characters are terrible at their jobs, and they just
Mm-hmm.
keep progressing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think
You can call it that. The only progression they have is by sheer accident.
yes, they're like, guess what? We have a mansion now. And it's like, okay.
Guess what? We killed the general of the Demon King by accident because we were blowing up his castle.
Because we didn't know it was his castle.
Yeah. We didn't know it was his castle. We thought it was an abandoned castle. Who knew the Demon King General was there the entire time?
But yeah. So I think I left off in the exact same place you left off,
Mm-hmm.
which was at the beginning of season 2. Because when I jumped into the show, it was like, you need to finish the last episode of season 2. And I'm like, oh, it must have been one of those timing things where like the show aired, like we did the show right before the last episode came out. I was like, oh, okay, I'll watch it. I got time. And then I started watching it, and then he started having these weird flashbacks of stuff I don't remember. And like,
well, to be fair, Konosuba is like, I mean, these seasons have been way far apart from each other, I am sure.
So, one of, I guess, a lady from an encounter that they had before came back in his nightmare, and it was such a
I've seen the short of this. I think he was in between her boobs, I think, or is that you're talking about?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't the lady.
Oh.
That's the reason why he was so upset. Because okay, I saw this
That
as
makes sense
I
now.
saw this as a short. She's bear hugging him, got him wrapped around, and his other party members are like, "Don't worry, we'll save you." And he's like, "No, I'm good." Because he's really like his head is between her boobs or whatever, and he's like, "No, don't worry about it. I'm fine. I'm fine." And then at some point he goes, "Wait, what's poking me from behind?" And she goes, "Yeah, what do you think it is?" And that caused him to get a very pained look on his face, look up, and she just smiles down at him. And he's like, "Get me out of here now." And I saw that clip and went, "Yep, that's Konosuba. Mm-hmm. That is entirely Konosuba."
Like throughout the episode, like it would just pop into his head, and like a faint version of what happened would like rise above his shoulder, and he'd be like, ah! And I'm like, "What's wrong with you, man?"
Yeah,
Like,
that's what's wrong with him.
Okay, I fully understand now.
Okay, so just as an FYI, season 1 of Konosuba came out in 2016. Season 2 came out in 2017, at the end of 2017, and there was a movie that came out in 2019, and the spinoff that came out, I think, 2 years ago with just what's her name, the Fire Mage.
Yeah.
And now here we are, 2024, with the 3rd season.
Okay.
That's the reason why you don't remember a whole lot of it. It's been a minute.
So yeah, the character designs are very interesting. They're like, I think I had said this about the show before. It's like sloppy animation, where it's like it's not consistent, but it's not messy.
Yeah.
It's like not like it's strange, but like a nice strange. It's It's yeah. Um, but yeah, I love Konosuba so much.
Yes,
this
I
show
know.
makes this show makes no sense. I don't know what the goal is right now.
No one
Um,
knows what the goal is. They don't even know what the goal is. Their goal is just to live from day to day.
that's basically what are we doing today? We got a mission.
We got to make money, so we
Yeah,
got to go do something. Yeah,
yeah.
I just
Oh, okay, cool. Cool. So, um, let's see. My it's so weird that like my favorite character is the fire mage, but when you give my favorite character her an entire season, I don't like it. So I d- I
did you watch that entire season?
I watched the first episode and it was like this is kind of interesting, and then I just didn't. I just like always just didn't. I just moved on to something else. Um, it wasn't bad, so I would be up to continuing it. It's just it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now seeing like Konosuba back again, it reminds me of why I like her as a character, because it's like I said before with the other characters, like powerful characters who are good at what they're doing. She is good as blow. She is good at using her power, whether it's a good reason or a bad reason or just because she feels like it. She's very powerful at it. So I like it. It's cool.
Yeah,
She's
for one
also
spell.
yes, she's extremely gullible when it comes to the main guy, where he like,
Oh yeah,
no, I don't want to do it.
she
Yeah,
believes everything he says.
yes. He's like, no, I don't want to do it because of that. He's like, no, I didn't say that. I said this. She's like, okay, let's do that. And I'm like, he just used one different word that means the same thing.
Yep.
And it is like explosion. And I'm like, all right, this is what we're doing. um,
All of them are okay, so don't get me wrong. I enjoy a good D&D adventure, all right? I enjoy a good D&D adventure. And I get that one person said before, or I guess I get a person, I can't remember who got asked, like, what is the ideal D&D party that you would have? And he was like, you have to have a mixture of people who want to fuck off and do not what they're supposed to be doing, but are just there for shits and giggles and to do with that. And you have to have people who have an objective and who are going to do that. This is what you get when you have a D&D party with a group of people who just want to fuck off.
yep.
And on top of that, what makes it worse in that regards is not only are they the type of people who just want to fuck off, they're horrible at their jobs every time. You have a paladin who's really strong, great constitution, can't hit worth shit. You have a mage who's extremely powerful for one spell and one spell only. You have a goddess who is essentially their priest who has just can't feel like she wants to do anything if unless really forced to.
Yes, exactly.
And she could do amazing things, but you gotta like motivate the shit out of her, and usually in horrible ways. And then the main character is a rogue who's only steals panties. That's it. It's like you took every class and went, how can we make them worse?
So speaking of Aqua,
Mhm.
they um they were on a mission and they broke into this like one abandoned like base of this crazy guy,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden because they were supposed to defeat the golem that was there, and the, two explosions and that was over. And then um, yes, after the fact, they were like exploring the ruins and everything, I think, and these tiny golems all of a sudden just swarmed Aqua, and she started freaking out. It was like, help me, get him off! And they were just attacking the crap out of her, and everybody's like,
"You're a goddess."
Yes, she's off. Like, and they're like, what should we do? And she's like, help! And I'm like, is anybody gonna do anything?
No.
And she's like, God blow. And this beam of light just comes shining from her, disintegrates all the golems. And I'm like, girl, you could have done that at the beginning. Like, come on.
Well, again, that's just like when the very first season, when they go to take care of those, what is it, the fish people or whatever, in that lake,
Uh-huh.
and they stick her in a cage, put her in the water. She's surrounded by the fish things, and she's purifying the water. But they literally had to put her in a life or death situation, and where she's like, purify, 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 before she finally makes the water pure and all the fish things go away. And I'm just like, you probably could have done that without being in mortal danger. Just saying. You have to force her to do things, and it's ridiculous. I don't know. It's funny, I get it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of a D&D. I'm too much on the other side of like, we have a mission. Let's go do the mission. I'm good for sidetracking, but they take sidetracking to like whole new levels.
Sidetracking is the only path.
Mm-hmm.
And if the sidetrack happens to lead towards where the mission was going, oh well. Oops.
Yeah.
You're like, oh God, we're at the end of the mission.
They're at the end of the mission, but then they're like, well, let's make sure we avoid that now and go. It's like they're like, here's the path going. Here's them going. You're just like, good Lord.
But yeah. So with this show, I think I think I'm gonna have to watch season 2 before I continue season 3 because I don't remember.
It's been like 7 years, man. So I'm not surprised.
Because he had so many flashbacks, and I'm like, who are all these people? But yeah, Konosuba is back, as wacky as ever. And yeah, I can't wait to see more. Alright, the next show we're going to be talking about is Chilling in Another World with level 2 super cheat powers.
So, this one, this one I'm continuing. This is the first one so far that of me solo that I am continuing, because okay, so the setup is what kills me and what got me, right? So here's another isekai situation. Now the dude didn't die; he literally got summoned to another world, but he was in a fantasy world and also got summoned to another fantasy world, which has, like the other one, has certain changes, but there's some similarities between the two. So he often catches himself off guard by like seeing things that he's like, oh wait, and then he's like, oh wait, no, sorry, different thing. But he gets transported, and he gets basically when he got transported, he was supposed to get powered up to be the hero when he was transported. Well, when they take measure of his power, he's like citizen level. He's like not even like knight level. He's like low. Like his stats are like insanely low. And so they kind of laugh him off. But apparently, he wasn't the only one they summoned. They summoned another person at the same time. And when they took score of his, he's got super high stats. And they're like, "Oh, goody! There's our savior. There's the person that we're gonna want to, you know, go the distance with and defeat the demon lord." Yada yada yada. So they basically give him some supplies and they send him on his way and go because he's like, "Well, just send me back." And they're like, "Sorry, can't do that. We don't have the ability to." So they're like, they cut ties with him. They send him on his way, and they'd say, "Oh, we're gonna send you to this forest, so you're far from here, and just do whatever." He goes there, and he ends up, um, he ends up killing an a animal that was about to attack him because he does have at least some proficiency from his old world about like actually using weapons, swords, and stuff like that. So he does that, and he hits. He levels up, and all of a sudden, it's like he leveled up, and everything unlocks for him. It took him leveling up once, and all of a sudden, like he had, if you're looking at like a D&D sheet where you have strength, constitution, agility, all that stuff, his was like ones and twos essentially. When you look at the hero that also got summoned with him, that person's stats were like hundreds or whatever. His first level up, all of his stats go infinite. Literally, he just has the infinity symbol next to all of his stats, but he doesn't know what that means.
I got all eights.
He's like, I don't know what they are, but he's like, okay, whatever. And all of a sudden, all spells are unlocked for him. And then he walks up to a forest and he has now a voice that talks to him. It's like if you look at this slime version of
I was about to say that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of like that. Kind of like that. Now it's like telling him things or whatever. And it warns him that there is a miasma in this forest and it's dangerous for him to walk in. But it goes, "Do you want to purify?" And he was like, "Sure, if that's the case, let's do that." So he purifies, and essentially he not only gets rid of the miasma, there were demons and other monsters. He purifies all of them. And all of a sudden it says, I mean, his stats aren't going up, but now like he leveled. And because he killed a shit ton of things that he had no intention of knowing that he was killing. He just was like, all right, sure, purify it. Um, so yeah, this is our main character. He was a merchant in his old world. He's now kind of just a kind of like what I wanted to have happen for the first anime we talked about, where yeah, like he's here now, but he's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna live my life. I don't care about all that. So the king and the nobility that he originally got to suck. They are horrible, horrible people. And the hero is also a horrible, horrible person. He is so full on himself, but
What is the Shield Knight?
he's also a coward.
Mhm.
Like the first confrontation they got into, he ran away. But when he got back, he blamed the soldiers that he'd been sent with, saying they weren't enough for me to be able to go take care of the demon lord.
Feel like we're watching the beginning of Shield Hero all over again.
Well, here's the thing though. So, like, the lady that he's with is actually a demon who initially he goes back to the main town, but he disguises himself because he's like, everyone knows what I look like, so let me disguise myself, and that way I can walk freely without anyone knowing who I am, and I'll just use an alias. Um, he goes to the Adventure Guild, sign up, but he's still low rank because, according to them, he was still low level. There was a little girl who was like, so he got there because since he'd already been there, he used teleportation. and teleported back to the main city. He goes to the Adventurers Guild. Once he signs up, he's like, okay, I can do some missions, and he sees a little girl who's asking people for help and no one's accepting, and she just needs to go back to the forest that he was just at. And he was like, well, I can help you. She's like, you're gonna take me there? He's like, yeah, I can teleport you there. And everyone looks at him stunned because he said that out loud, and they overheard him say teleport, and they're like, you can't use teleportation. And then there's a group of other adventurers who sees a little girl, thinks that he's trying to do something nefarious, and goes, what's your intentions with this little girl? You can't use teleportation. He's like, look, I'll show you. So they go outside, he goes into a alleyway, and he teleports him there. And they're like, well, I apologize. And then she realizes the little girl goes up to the forest and sees that the man's was gone, ends up turning into this giant wolf beast because she was actually a demon in disguise. She attacks the party, he teleports them away, and then again, he doesn't know his own strength. So he goes, I'm going to use every spell at my disposal.
No.
So all of a sudden, all these spells show up and they just start firing off one after another. Well, she's down for the count. And the thing goes, well, do you want to subdue her? Now, in his previous world, there was slavery with demi-humans, and he's like, and he was always against it. And he goes, no, I will not do that. And as the voice keeps going, you should use this spell. She's about to break free of this barrier hold that we have her in. You need to use it. He's like, no, I will not do it. She finally breaks free, and she basically bows to him because of all the power he's shown to her. She now thinks, you're the most powerful being I have ever seen. I have no chance against you, but I will instead serve you. And then turns herself into the character that you see standing next to him. And from there, like the little like rabbit creature that she has that's between the two of them is actually a giant grizzly mutant bear creature thing that he subdues quite handily and didn't want to kill. So he basically, it also saw his power and wanted to become his pet. And he was like, well, I can't have you looking like that. So he transforms it into that. But it's literally this giant, ferocious killer beast that even the other adventurers that he is with at that time were deathly afraid of. And he's just like, what? It's fine. It's peaceful. What are you doing? Like all of them are cowering and hiding. So it's like, to me, this is fun.
Mm-hmm.
This is a blast. This is fun. And even more so at one point, because he had subdued her, even though he didn't really subdue her, she just bowed to him because of his power. The demon lord actually comes to him because all of a sudden he's just holed up in a place, and demon lord comes to him and has no problem with him. It's just like, hey, look, this is actually the reason why this war is going on. I don't think the humans even know this, and we're trying to do this, and I have no beef. Do you have any beef? He's like, I have no beef with you. He's like, cool. But then because he's under watch, because he made such a profound statement in handling the forest and everything, the kingdom had him under watch and saw it. They didn't know it was a demon lord. They just knew it was a demon come to his place. And they're like, "Hey, he's a problem. He's consorting with the demons."
My God.
So now the hero comes to him and is like, you're either going to join me to go after kill the demon lord, or we're going to force you to do it. And that was where I left off, and I'm like, can't wait to see how this is gonna pan out because you ain't forcing him to do anything.
Yeah, this sounds way more fun.
Oh, it is such a blast. I'm having the characters are interesting. Like he's training that adventure party, the original adventure party that he teleported with and then teleported away. ends up meeting back up with him, and they realize how strong he is, and they actually ask him to be their mentor to train them. And they're not as bad as Konosuba's people, but they are kind of not the greatest.
Mhm.
You know, you have a female warrior, the one at the bottom corner, who's kind of like Darkness, but she can actually hit things. She just doesn't do it very well. Like she just needs to be a little bit better at what, you know. And then you have the mage character, which actually is kind of like, it's funny, they're actually kind of similar to each other. They're just not as bad. Like she has magic, the mage can use magic and does. It's just after prolonged usage, and all of a sudden she's depleted and she just doesn't know what to do after that. So like he's trying to help her gain her more mana, more stamina, more, you know, give her more options, and it's yeah. Meanwhile, the lady up top, this was like, okay, I'm gonna say this is one of my favorite moments. Lady in the blonde lady in the upper left corner or right corner there. So the demon lord's actually funny. Demon lord's opposite her. He's in the upper left. She's in the upper right. The demon lord comes to the cottage where they're at, out in the woods, and asks for him. He was out doing something, and she gets weary of him because she thinks that originally that she doesn't realize he's even a demon. She actually stands up to him because she thinks he's from the kingdom and bothering them again because the kingdom keeps sending people to try and enlist him as part of the heroes party, and he's just like no. So she actually stands up to him. It isn't until he leaves that all of a sudden she gets told, because he sets a barrier around the place so he knows when there's people that come by, and he knew immediately that it was the demon lord, and he rushed back, but he'd already left. And they're like, "Are you okay? Are you fine? Is anything wrong? Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, why? What's wrong?" She's like, we just saw that was the demon lord." And immediately she's like, but because she showed no fear to him, now all of a sudden he's interested in her. So the running gag with that is he actually spends most of the day just trying to keep jumping in, seeing where she's at, talking with her. And now that she knows that what he is, she is deathly afraid of
Oh
him.
my god.
So she avoids, like, he'll pop up and go, "Hey," and she's like, "I got to go too." And it's like the third or fourth time she runs away saying she has to go do something. He's like, "She is really busy. She has a lot to do, doesn't she?" And everyone's just like, "Yeah, uh-huh." So,
That's funny. Um, how many episodes are you in?
4, I think.
Cool, cool, cool.
So yeah, this one I'm definitely been continuing. So yeah, episode 4.
Good, good, cool. Yeah, this one seems pretty fun.
Yep.
Um, yeah. All right. My connection to the other computer stopped, so I
Uh-oh.
will be right back.
Sure.
Free software, am I right? All right.
Nice.
All right. The next show we're gonna be talking about is Mushoku Tensei 2 Part 2.
How how much of you this is watched, or did you watch any of this?
Wherever we left off a year ago, that's still where I am.
Okay.
Basically, I think the and this may still be outdated. I remember that the son met up with the father
Mm-hmm.
and got upset,
Yep.
and then I remember, and this I don't know when these two moments take place, but like, uh, he was in a camp depressed because what's the name left?
Yep.
Was that after he met with his father?
Yep.
Okay, I left off when she left.
So that was the end of season 1.
Okay, were they on a boat?
They were on a boat at one point because they came back to they left the demon continent and came back to their homeland.
Okay.
And then after they realized that it had been devastated and people were gone and that so many people had died, that she, after spending the night with him, left.
Okay.
So you haven't even started or you haven't even
What?
started season 2. So you got a little ways to catch up.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell part 2 of this is definitely another. So the beginning part of this is very slow, but I think it's because it was really should have been meant to happen all at once. So from the excitement that was happened towards the end of part 1 would have been the upbeat, whereas the beginning of it should have just continued for an upbeat and then a downbeat. This would have been the downbeat, the beginning part of this, before we start coming back up again.
Okay.
Um, I I guess I won't go into too much detail then as far as this goes. Um, so well, because you don't even know he had an issue that yeah. It's just God, you don't even know.
So far behind.
You don't even know who. Well, I guess you would know the two girls but do you even recognize the elf in the background?
Is she back?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know who all three girls are now.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, you don't even know her story and how, because like part 1 of this started, well, no, it didn't start with part 1 part 1 had him getting over his depression and then meeting up with her and her story, the elf story,
Was she a
and
bodyguard
that
for
whole
a
deal.
bit?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that was part 1 in regards to that. Part 2 has him gain over a specific ailment of that. He actually ends up marrying her.
Okay.
And part of that is that he has to, when I guess in their laws in their country or whatever, when you marry, you have to get a house together. So he ended up, because of the money he had as an adventurer that he had squirreled away, used that to help him get a house. And then because his father is still searching for his mother and then a few other people, and had gotten the lead on where to go, he sent the two daughters to him.
Okay.
So that way he could keep an eye on them so he wouldn't have to worry about it. So the father wouldn't have to worry about them because he knows Rudius will take care of them. And so far, the episodes we're on is just after they had gotten there, and the redheaded girl is she's incredibly smart, she's incredibly gifted, but the only thing she wants to do is essentially act as the two of them's maid, and they were very much weary of doing that because they wanted her to kind of live her own life, but she's insistent upon it. So they're kind of like, I, if that's what you want, sure. And whereas the blonde-haired girl, that's so the redhead is his stepsister, the blonde is his direct sister. The blonde-haired girl hates Rudius. That's because she saw Rudius beat the crap out of their dad back in the first season. So she has feelings against him, and he so far because he's living in the house he lives in is next to the magician wizard school that he got told about back in season 1 or whatever. So the house he got to is there, and he had her so that way she could get her own independence and feel, not have to be around them all the time. He said that as long as she signed up and got into school, she could live in the dorms. And so far she is, but I don't know if it's the fact that something seems off with her. Like she's not fitting in, she's feeling lonely because the dad's not there anymore, or something else is going on because she's like secluded herself in her room most of the time when she's not going to class, and she's not making any friends, which is one of the things Rudius wanted her to do, to actually go out there and make friends and live her life kind of thing. So yeah. So it started as a bit of a slow burn in the beginning, but again, I think it's because the end of part one ended on a high note, and now it's one of those where, we're riding the wave down, and it's now 4 episodes, 5 episodes into it, it's starting to get that comeback up kind of situation. So we'll see where it goes, what happens. But at this point, I'm fine with more of like the domestic guys kind of situation for Rudius and, Athena living their domestic life and taking care of his sisters and all this, that, and the other thing. So again, we've always said about it with show. This show is very grounded. Like it definitely knows it. A normal fantasy show wouldn't even have bothered with like going into details about the relationship with the sisters or kind of giving any background into that. It would have ignored that. It wouldn't have given so much emphasis on Reese's domestic life with, his wife now. But this show definitely doesn't hold back when it comes to stuff like that. And it grounds itself very well, I think, because of that.
Do you think it is because the show is doing it so well? Because other shows would either abbreviate it or cut it all out because they only got 13 episodes to get this story done.
Yeah, I think they abbreviate it, but see, I feel like even when we used to get like, because we're both old school anime watchers and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
we'd watch things even as far back as 50 episodes long kind of situation going on
Yeah,
here.
like the standard was 26 or 52.
Yeah, but to me, see, here's the thing. It's like back when that was a day, there were filler episodes. There were episodes
Yes.
that had no real consequence. There were episodes that were just like, this really has no purpose other than they needed to fill in the gaps in between, and they didn't know what else to do with it, so they just gave them this random mission or this random side quest or just this, we're looking at their day off kind of situation, but it had no real consequence to it. Here, I feel like it's not so much that we're like giving them, like, you could think of this as, oh, this is just a day off kind of situation,
Uh,
but it oh, there we go. Because of the way they do it and the way they set it up, like you feel like it's all important. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So I feel like this is probably the best I've seen done in regards to this.
Okay.
But again, I think that's what sets this one apart. That's what really drives this one home and really makes it why people think this is like the grandfather of all, isekais kind of situation.
Yeah. Yeah, this show is very, very good.
Oh, for sure.
um, yeah. Um, I have a lot of catching up to do.
Yes, you do.
So, yeah. All right. The next show we're going to be talking about is Remonster.
So this one is also interesting to me. So this is another isekai situation, but so he was reborn into a goblin.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, but he still had all of his memories and such from his previous life. We also began to understand that his world, though similar to our world, wasn't exactly like our world because he had a interesting ability where he could gain either the experience, the memories, or something from eating of something else. Usually a living something else. He could gain like their attributes or something like that. So he so I'm gonna probably contradict myself just a tiny bit here, but this is kind of in its own way mini episodic as well,
Mhm.
which kind of when watching this kind of threw me a little bit because I'm like, I don't like that format. I don't like that just like, oh, here we go. This is what happens, and we do this, then we do this, then we do this, then we do this. And I'm just like, no, like make it all seamless in one line junction here. Just we go from, but so each episode has multiple days that go by. And each time we see our character, the main character, he um it's like day one when he was born. Day two, this is what happened. Day three, this is what happened. Day four, this is what happened, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. And each new thing is each new thing's happening. So far, what's been interesting to me though, and why I continue watching it, is that he, as a monster, not only did he still attain his ability that he had from his previous life, where if he eats something, he gains their attributes or stats or however it is, kind of thing. But he also he doesn't see it, he more feels it when he actually has experience, and when he gains enough experience from the things that he consumes or fights, he evolves. So he went from a regular little goblin character to a hobgoblin character to an ogre to a specialized type ogre kind of situation. And he's been the people he was originally, because he was born into a brood, the goblins he was born with, he's dragged them along with him, and each one of them has been leveling and evolving as well. And basically, he's kind of made his own little society with those that he's done that with.
So, how are they getting the things that they consume?
So initially, it's they've mostly hunting.
Okay.
So
It's more like
initially,
animals and stuff like that.
yeah, it's mostly animals and stuff like that. Though I will say he's gone now that he's evolved to the point where he's done things like they don't show it, they allude to it, but he's always eaten things to gain abilities, and all of a sudden he gained some abilities from some elves. So I'm pretty sure he ate some elves. I mean, they're monsters. I mean,
uh,
what can I say? They're monsters. Um, this is definitely not what I would say is on my higher end tier list when it comes to fantasy, but the premise behind it is interesting enough that I keep watching it. Uh, are the characters all that complex? Not really. The characters themselves, like, he seems to have fit into his monster role quite handedly. He doesn't have any problem with what he's doing. Um, the only thing that's interesting about him is that the previous hobgoblins were out on a journey and came back to camp after he had already upgraded himself to an ogre. And they brought humans with them, of which would have been essentially used for breeding purposes and such. He stopped that. He basically said, no one is allowed to do that. I don't care. It's strictly off limits. Just no. And even when some of the elves that they had come across, um, which attacked them initially, so they defended themselves, and some of them they ate, but some of them were females, and they work in the town encampment that they're at. They're not slaves. They're there not necessarily by choice, but they're not being mistreated at all. They're just working there essentially. And even when the one of the older, goblins there said they he wanted to do some things with some elves because they're apparently very energetic and sexy, he said, no, you were not allowed to do that. So there's some humanistic, I think, in him still, but it kind of goes back and forth a little bit.
okay.
So it's interesting. It doesn't necessarily take itself overly serious. And I think they play around with rules a little bit, but and then there's a little bit of plot armor involved too. But I guess that's more or less just to continue the story and just to make things, keep moving in a direction.
Okay. How
So,
far? Oh,
um, I am how far am I on that? Episode 5.
okay.
So,
Do you have a favorite character so far?
probably the main character, honestly. Because you interact with some of the other characters from time to time, but the main character is the one that not only are you following, but you also hear his internal monologue. So you get more insight into what he's thinking or why he's thinking or what the motivations are. I don't really see that with the other characters. I will say his number two right hand man is also kind of interesting, but he's there's just like this picture shows, there's like what, 8 of them there, kind of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7. There's a lot of characters, and they have each of them has their own time. So because of that, you don't really see any other one character besides him for any necessarily long length of time. It's interesting to see them evolve. They each evolve and now have like different, because of the abilities they evolve with, they each have different jobs that they get. Um, the one in the picture you see with the axe is she's actually like an earth lord or something like that, which she evolved into, and like the ogre family. Because of that, she can move and break like rock and other earth metals and stuff like that. So because of that, they put her as a miner getting raw material, because they have a blacksmith who's making things. So they're like, well, just give him the materials he needs. You can mine them for him and get him what he needs. They have other ones that evolved into more spelly mage type situations. Um, Others that are, I mean, it's unique enough without going too far, I guess, to be interesting.
Okay.
And this is, at least in my experience, the first anime that we've had where in an isekai situation they didn't go into, the hero or a human or something like that. He literally went into from a human into a monster. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It was like we've gone from human into the hero, human into a commoner, human into a refrigerator, human into a sword. Now human into monster.
hmm
Interesting. Um, were there any standout moments?
um see, here again, this is why the problem with the whole like mini episodic thing that kind of gets crazy.
Yeah.
So he had his fight that he had with some like primal forest lord bear creature kind of situation, which most other creatures or denizens of the woods usually avoided, but he happened across it by accident and ended up having to engage it, and the battle was tough. Like he ended up losing an arm because of it, um, and barely made it out of there alive, as far as it. But he did win in the end. So I will say because of that, I think that's basically the one moment, at least just thinking about, that really stands out to me.
Okay. So as far as losing the arm, is he kind of like like his power can like regenerate limbs, or is he like just
No.
one arm?
So initially he was one arm. He ended up, there was a magical created being that went searching and well found him and needed his help because her master was a great wizard, sorcerer, artificer, and he died, but he left his stash inside of a dungeon that was nearby, and there was some humans who were raiding that dungeon, and she needed help getting rid of them. So he handled the humans, and his reward was to be able to take whatever he wanted from the artificer's stash, essentially. And one of it was essentially a magicized gauntlet that turned into an arm for him.
Oh, okay.
A bit of plot convenience, a little bit, because he took all the magic items and things from, so he outfitted everyone in his group with whatever they needed, whatever worked best for them, kind of situation. But
Interesting. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, it sounds like an interesting spin on the isekai.
eh,
Yeah, we shall see. Alright, the next show we're gonna be talking about is Sentai Daishikaku or Go Go Loser Ranger.
this one seemed interesting.
It is. So, um, what I've learned from one of my coworkers is that this show, crap, what was the name of the show? Oh man, um, I think he said this show is based or was created by the same person who did um, Death Note
Okay, I can kind of see that.
and a more recent show with the same themes of like, and that show is like Angels and Demons or something like that. I man, I I I had the name and it just, whew. um, but basically it's that like dark show, like a show with heavy dark undertones
Mm-hmm.
and incredible animation that has themes that can be blatant or hidden that may guide the show. Um, and yeah, I this is on Disney Plus or Hulu.
Interesting. So, just so you know, this is done by Star Pictures,
Okay.
who's a fairly relatively new animation studio.
Okay.
They've only been operating since 2020,
Okay.
and it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5, 10, 15, 20, 21 titles under their belt. So
Okay.
they're fairly new to the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I was gonna
Um,
ask as far as that goes, and you already answered it as far as how well it looks, kind of thing.
it looks amazing. I love it.
I've seen some snippets of this. I think my YouTube Shorts recommendation always has some random anime that just pops up, kind of thing.
Yeah. Um, so basically, the concept of this show is
Like
it's
Rangers Gone Bad.
well, not necessarily. Um, basically, it's like Super Sentai Power Rangers,
Mhm,
and it's a show that's well, actually, I think it used to be a real thing.
mhm,
Like aliens did come and attack, and the Rangers did defeat them, but they defeated the bosses, and the underlings that were left, basically the Rangers, I guess, enslaved them
mhm.
or forced employment to them to basically put on shows like it happens now, where it's like you can go out to this like park and it's like Super Sentai here, and they'll go and do like a performance.
Gotcha.
So, um, basically, it's this giant area where every week Super Sentai pops in and does their show, and every week there's a new monster, and it's the whole thing. And so far I don't know how many people are in on what actually happened.
Mhm,
Um, the minions that are left over are definitely in on it because they're basically forced to come up with a new monster every week, and one of
mhm.
them transforms into the new monster, and then they go about the show and just go through the motions and get beat up and then sit back to their little dimension dungeon kind of area. Um, and they have like a radio that like listens into when the show's gonna happen. And
Mhm.
they get their cues on like, all right, y'all need to come back out and get beat up and then go back away. Um, and the Rangers are
They seem a little evil.
yes. um,
If I had to guess, because I only just watched the trailer while you were talking, and as far as that goes, it seems more like they probably, I would say, enjoy the fame, and because of that, they didn't want to become irrelevant because there was no more bosses for them to go after. So by them doing this, they're perpetuating them needing to be relevant and being in the spotlight. So yeah,
that makes perfect sense. um, so
they're
yeah,
using the underlings as a way for them to keep being popular and keep being in the minds of everyone around them.
yes. Um,
This is interesting.
So, yeah, like they seemed off. The
Yeah,
one
just
that seems the most off is the Green Ranger,
mhm.
because his face is just all scarred up.
Well, even in the preview I was watching, some of the other ones had like smiles and stuff that were just like super creepy and
Yeah.
super evil looking, where you're just like, you're not a good person, are you? You are
Yeah.
probably like really just underhanded and evil in some way that's not apparent.
Yeah. So, of course, this situation can't go on forever. There's going to be an uprising. And only one guy decided to rise up. Um, basically, they're um, so there's the main rangers that do the show, and then there's kind of like this. I don't know how serious it is, but like it seems like there's like this fan club where you can like also become a ranger, but like it's like what real people like what the average person kind of can do as a ranger, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're more of like a model citizen, like you participate in these events for the community and like
Ranger in training, is just so basically if it was in the form of if it was to make the correlation, it would be like a citizen doing a citizen's arrest instead of a police officer kind of situation.
yes.
Yeah,
And I think more kind of like a boy scouts and girl scouts, like
yeah,
doing
yeah.
positive things for the community kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
um so they're recruiting people to do that, and I think that there's actually a possibility that you can move up in the ranks and like do something not as serious as the main rangers, or maybe you can. I don't know. Um, but there seems like there's this process to where you can work your way up, and
Or maybe that's what they're using to string people along.
yes, uh, yeah, it's like it's very intriguing, and basically one of the minions was like, I'm kind of done with this. Like, why do we have to keep doing this? This is not fair. Um, I'm sick of losing all the time. We're
Mhm.
strong. Let's let's fight back. And everybody else is like, no, we shouldn't. Like, that's not a good. We don't want to get in trouble. And basically, they go through their whole like show, and the Rangers use their weapon and like blow up the monster, and everybody else is supposed to just disappear and go underground. And one guy, the guy that was like causing the fuss, was like, no, and he like starts recomposing and starts running towards the Rangers for another attack, and is swiftly handled, but
In a
like
brutal, gruesome fashion.
no, like he's straight up professional, like the dude's running towards them, and then the Red Ranger like swoops in real close to him, and is like, all right, you've had your fun now. Now go back to your hole. Slices him in half like they do on the show, and he like disintegrates.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh shit. uh, the only thing is, he doesn't disintegrate and go back. He disintegrates to the top of a roof somewhere and disguises himself as a regular person.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize that that person was one of the people you saw earlier signing up to be a recruit. So basically, from the first episode, he's going to be the guy that works his way up the ranks to try to destroy the Rangers from the inside.
Yeah, but there's something up with that girl too. I know she's like a key part in this as well.
Mm.
The one on the right, like again, I saw just a little short of it, but like she has some sort of like underlying plan and she's very wicked about it, about trying to do something that will shut the Rangers down permanently, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
no, it's
This is
interesting.
yes. I was like, this is very, very interesting. I dislike that it's on a platform that I don't already have.
Yeah.
Um, and I dislike also how some streaming platforms have adopted the freemium. Well, not freemium. They've adopted more of a Hulu approach, where they're like all those services that are like free with ads. They're like, nah.
Mhm.
You give us money, and we're gonna show you some ads. You give us more money, and then maybe we won't show you ads. So in order for me to enjoy this show, I'm gonna have to get plus Disney Plus Premium.
Oh, good Lord.
Um, because I can't. It was like 7 ads, and like even though it interrupted the show, which is like a deal breaker for me. Um, it's also stuff that I'm like, I already have this stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, it's great. I use it. Look, it's an app on my phone right here. Go away. 30 more seconds though. So, um, yeah, it's yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna go about this because it's not cheap.
Yeah, I would imagine.
um, but yeah, like I'm very very excited about this show. I got recommended by 2 people, and yeah, it's so weird because it's like I grew up as a kid, like elementary school, go go Power Rangers,
Hmm.
and then in college, I found out that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers that I watched was actually Zoo Rangers, Sentai, like Super Sentai season 40, and I was like, wait, 40?
Dude, there has been so many different ones that have come out even since then. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
and then seeing like the live action shows that they put on that aren't part of the TV show. So I'm like, there's this gigantic universe, and then also I have this one video, one like short movie with like there's a fight scene and there's like 60 Power Rangers on screen,
Hmm.
and I'm like, no, like, was it that they don't all live concurrently, right? Like it's supposed to be one team, and then they go away and then another team, and they're like, no, there's 5 Red Rangers all doing their moves and showing their weapons and doing their jumping in the air, and I'm like, this is hurting my brain. Like I can't understand this concept right now. Like it's freaking me out. There's like 17 Yellow Rangers. Half of them are girls and half of them are guys. And I'm like, it's just
Yep.
yeah. I'm
Yep.
just I'm just like ah. So because of that, like an anime that's about dark Power Rangers is like super duper intriguing. So yeah, I am all in on this show. Alright. The next show we're gonna be talking about as a reincarnated aristocrat, I'll use my appraisal skill to rise in the world.
So this one, I would say is, and I was talking about the tier list before. This one, I would say, is definitely higher on the tier list. Um, I may put it's reaching. It's not there, but it's definitely reaching Mashoka Tensei levels.
Oh.
It's getting up there. And
Okay.
the reason I say this is it's very intriguing to me. So the main character you follow, so the very first episode, the very beginning of the first episode, you see the main character older. Not much older, but he's like when you follow him through the rest of it, he's like 7 or 8. And when we follow him through the rest of it so far. When we see him in the beginning, he was probably mid to late teens.
Good.
Um, so his ability is that basically he can look with his eye and activate an ability where he sees a person and can see inherently basically a run out of their stats and what they're proficient in.
Uh, appraisal, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what they're proficient in. What's interesting is that so he is a noble born into a house, and his father has great leadership abilities, has amazing command, presence, stuff like that. And what he's realizing is because of the way their land is situated, a war is inevitable. A war is going to end up breaking out. So what he is trying to do as a kid is he's trying to bolster his father's army and their abilities. By doing this, he's going around and trying to find key people that are the best of what they can do. So the very first episode, he meets up with a young kid who is essentially a because of his origins, he's treated as a no good people, he's a beggar because no one give him any work and this, that, and the other thing. But he sees and looks at him and sees that he has almost as high of leadership abilities as his dad does. He is an excellent like swordsman, top tiers as far as that goes. And he is like proud as like he's got some great stats. So he has to convince his dad to bring him in, make him his retainer, and train him, and that he has the abilities that is worth doing that. Um, and he does. I mean, it's the process of that, but it's interesting and amazing to see the talent that he's pulling into himself. Like the girl on the right, the purple haired girl she was a street urchin, but he saw that she had S tier magic abilities, but she'd never touched magic, never done anything with magic, didn't even know she had that ability to do anything with magic. She was never trained. So when he finds her and finally convinces her to come along, and she's like, I don't know if I'll be in any use, but if you want me to, then I'll join you. You know, his right hand, which had been that street urchin from before, basically said, "Oh, we want to test you," and the kid looks at him and goes, "You don't trust me?" He's like, It's not that I don't trust you, as that I wanted to make sure she has the abilities that you're saying she does, so that way we can show it to everyone else." And he gives her like this pendant and teaches her a quick spell that is supposed to be something that just creates a bit of flame. She uses the pendant, creates the flame, and it's like a freaking like C4 explosion goes off above the town because they were standing on this hillside, and just literally everyone in the town is able to see this explosion and just be like, what the hell is that?
Hmm.
um so I guess my biggest thing because of this, and because of the way they began it from the very first episode, I see where the potential is. I see where it's like I'm hoping this goes the distance and goes long because I want to see him. I want the first season to end where it began, if that makes sense. I want to see it to where he's built up all these great people that have all these great abilities, natural leaders, great magicians, great, whatever. all of them together, and like they're about to go to this like huge war. And because of all this talent, raw talent that he has with him, that has been trained over time, he has the ability to do what he needs to do. But it's like I want to see the first season be like the build up to get there, and then the second season is like the payoff. Now it's like this is what's happening. He's because in the first season or in the first episode, his dad was dead. They were burying him basically, or I think it was a funeral pyre that they were setting the flame to, and it's like that's big. So like he's now the leader essentially, and I'm like, all right, let's go, let's do it. I'm like, I want to see us build to there and then go off. And I think if it can do that and it goes off, it's gonna be big.
Okay.
So I guess biggest thing is I have high hopes for this one.
Yes.
If the potential is there, I just and I want to see his abilities and appraisal actually like evolve and see him actually become, I think, the leader that he doubts. Like he thinks his only usefulness is to be able to do this. I don't think that's the case. I think he'll grow into and become even more useful than he even realizes. So,
Good, good. Um, how far in are you?
this one I am 4 episodes in.
I guess who's your favorite character so far out of the bunch?
That's it's honestly between the mage and his personal attendant. That's like the warrior slash like leader kind of thing. Um, because she's just now that she's part of the group and everything, she's kind of ditzy in a kind of way, but he's also very protective of him also because they were about to go out on another search for some people, and she literally had just gotten back from going out to do a skirmish. So obviously she was tired and saw that she was leaving, and me was like, "I'm coming with you." And they're like, no, we're good. You don't need to. And she's like, nope, I'm coming with you. I'm going to be his personal bodyguard through this. And he's like, I'm plenty. He doesn't need you. And then it was like a fight between the two of them about who would be his bodyguard through this. And he's like, there's supposed to be. I'm hoping this doesn't continue. He's like, this does not bode well.
Cool, cool, cool. All right, yeah, this one sounds fun. I'm gonna check this one out. All right. The next show we're gonna be talking about is uh, I didn't flip him. I was reincarnated as the seventh prince and tiny, tiny words.
Yeah, it was the hold on. I was reincarnated as a seventh prince so I can take my time perfecting my magical abilities. This one, so this one I would say as kind of like one of my guilty pleasures to watch. It's not great, but it's funny and it's interesting. Um, this guy, I don't know if it was the same world or a different world that he came from, but it was a world that had magic. He was very low tier, he wasn't born nobility, didn't have a whole lot of magic, but he loved magic, absolutely loved everything to do with it. He gets killed by some nobility who were being pompous little pricks about it and dogging him because he didn't have any real magic to him. And he gets reborn as a kid who has immense, immense wells of magical power and ability. Um, so much so that when his first thing that he did when he got reborn as a baby in the crib, he got startled because there was a bunch of maids around him and he didn't know what was going on, who they were. So he tried casting a fireball spell and literally blew the roof off of the tower that he was in. Like, had the maid not moved out of the way, she would have been gone. So everything he does, it's all about magic to him. He cares little about anything else. At one point, he was told he's the seventh prince. He's the seventh prince, so he doesn't have. There's so many others in line before him for him to even be considered. He wasn't even going to be considered to be the next king. But then one of the one second to be prince saw his abilities and said he should be considered. And when offered the ability, he said no because he's not interested in being king. He just wants
Yeah.
to be everything with magic. Um, he's doing things. He's apparently there is like a 1 in a million chance, like for enchanters to actually enchant things. He literally wanted to see if he could do it and ended up like enchanting out of like 200 swords, he enchanted 80 of them to be like uber powerful. Like one of them, the knights didn't think he had done anything to it, so he sheathed the sword after he got it back after the prince had done stuff with it, and literally cut his scabbard in half from sheathing it.
Well.
Um, he goes into he overseers in the first episode of a library in the castle that has been strictly off limits because it has forbidden knowledge in it, and apparently there's a demon in this library. Well, he hears forbidden knowledge, and he's like, "I am there." Sneaks into this place, finds the demon, lets him loose because he wants to test some things when he finds the demon. And then when the demon tries to take him over, realizes that his well of magic is so immense it feels like an ocean compared to him. And he just goes, I'll be your servant.
Seems like a trend this season.
I was like, I will be your familiar because I don't want to deal with you. um, then because the demon had shown him that he could produce another head and dual cast, he figured out a way to put the demon inside of his hand where his face appeared and used his mouth to dual cast a complex spell that literally blew a hole in the sky and shone like the night sky during the day.
Okay.
It's just every time I'm just like, what are we gonna do now? What's the new thing? There was a demon at one point that they came across in the later episodes. I'm on episode 5 now, but in later episodes, there's another demon they come across, and he's wrecking havoc. He's wrecking havoc, and the prince is not concerned one bit, not even paying it any attention, because the demon had used animals and used his mana as like puppet strings to control them. And when the prince saw this, he looked at his demon and went, I want to do that. Can you teach me? And he's like, sure, I'll show you. So he's teaching him how to do this thing where he manipulates his mana and uses it like puppet strings and crafts things out of it, kind of thing. Meanwhile, shit's going down behind him, and he is completely oblivious to, not even giving it the time of freaking day. And when he finally doesn't give it the time of day, he literally traps the demon inside of a sphere, a shield that was so powerful he couldn't break the thing, couldn't break it. Brings the other demon back into him to dual cast and makes a complex version of spells where it was going to fire every element at him because the demon's like, well, I'm impervious to magic, and he's like, are you now? I want to test that. And he's just like, he crafts this complex weaving of spells where it chain effects and goes into all 5 elements multiple times in like the span of 10 minutes, like over and over and over and over and over again. Actually, I think he set it to like 30 minutes, but the demon died after the first 10.
Wow.
And after the demon died, he dropped the shield and went, oh, that's done. All right, moving on to the next. We're just like, all right, cool. So yeah, it's one of my guilty pleasure ones. Is it top tier? No. Is it pretty good? Yes. It's at least decent, and it gives me a little chuckle, and I'm always curious to see what he's gonna do or what interesting thing he's gonna come up with next. Because he's one of those things where it's like, now that he's learned how to enchant things, he's probably never gonna do that again. That's because it doesn't interest him now. He's already succeeded. He doesn't care about it anymore. Unless there is something different with enchanting he can do, he's never gonna do that again.
Oh.
But to me, that was like, that's, I mean, yeah, it's disappointing, but at the same time, I'm just like, you're always going to have something new because he's always going to try to be doing something new.
Yeah, one of the things where you're last in line. And he's like, nope, I'm tired of this. You're like,
Yeah.
shit.
But he's like 7 or 8 years old, and everyone's like, the what is it? The one dude is like, the other prince had seen him, is just like, everyone's like, why are you bothering giving him the time of day? And he's like, you guys don't understand. He sees it. He's like, he's powerful. Because I think at one point they went out to, he wanted, the second prince wanted to test out some spells or whatever. So they have like this firing range set up, and he tests these spells by taking out these targets. Well, he has the seventh prince come up, and the seventh prince is like, well, I don't want to outshow my brother, and I don't want to seem like I'm all that. So I'm going to shoot these spells, but I'm going to make each one of them miss. And the other guys are like, after they're done and they walk away, he starts talking about the seventh prince, and the second prince is like, oh, he's amazing. He's like, you kidding me? All of his other people around him are like, you kidding me? He missed every single target, and he's like, he didn't miss. He purposely moved out of each one. He saw what he was doing. He was like, I couldn't even do that. He purposely nicked each one without obliterating the target each time. So there's an interesting dynamic there, and it's like, I'm wanting to see where it goes.
Okay.
And the animation is stellar. The animation is incredibly good. I was actually going to look that up. It's done by, oh wow, it's a really new studio, Sumugi Akita Anime Lab. They've literally only done 2 animes, and it's been this year.
Okay.
I don't know what they do sometimes, but in that, oh yeah, literally this is their first anime because the other one isn't going to be released until winter 2024.
Cool, cool.
So the look of it is really nice. Like, I don't know what they do with the faces or the, especially sometimes when the prince is going, like, they give him, when he gets to that little mischievous side of, like, when he was telling the demon, I want to test this on you, the look of him and everything, you're like, oh, okay. Like, even if in a situation, I'd be scared looking at him going, oh, you all right, I'm glad you're on our side because holy crap.
How far are you into this one?
5 episodes? Yeah, 5 episodes.
Um, who's your favorite character so far?
The prince is amazing. His name's Lloyd. I love the prince. Um, his demon character sidekick is also pretty funny too. I do enjoy him because he always keeps like, I want to take him over. He's like, and then he sees him do something. He's like, I can wait. I'll wait. Yeah, it's fine. I can wait. Um, I will say I have to say probably my favorite character though has to be his personal attendant, his maid that he's with, which is also his teacher. Um, she's a badass. Like she's total badass. It's just funny because she'll go from this like super serious hardcore mode to all of a sudden absolutely gushing over the prince. Um, yeah, he like wants nothing to do with her, and like they went on a hunting expedition, and she's like, "You're gonna sleep in the tent with me," and he's like, "No, I'm gonna sleep by myself." She's like, "No, you're sleeping in the tent with me." But meanwhile, she'll also do things where it's like she's training him how to use sword and literally be like aggressively going after him to the point where you're just like, if he wasn't as powerful as he was, he would be dead right now.
Nice. Yeah, this show seems fun. Like, I might have to check this one out too. Alright. The next show and the last show we're going to be talking about today is Reincarnated as a Slime, Season 3.
Slime. Um, so have you watched any of this now?
I saw, just like the other, or is it? Oh, I watched the recap, which was the first episode. And I was like, oh, I need this information.
Yes, I am current on this.
Mhm.
Um, so again, this is also I feel like what it did was with Mushoku Tensei. This is very we're on that downward slope. I know the first episode was a recap, but even then, a lot of like what's been happening so far is just kind of like catching up on everything else because we had Rimuru that were focused on the end of the last season where he went to the meeting of all the demon lords, and became, officially titled as a demon lord. But there were other things going on, and then we only saw some of that. We didn't see all of that. So like the initial parts of it, like what happened with Black when he went to back to the kingdom that had originally attacked them, because he was tasked with going back to the kingdom with the hero to basically get that whole situation under control, situation kind of thing, and then what's happening with the bad guys and everything, and what happened at Tempest when everything was going on in situations. So it's interesting. Nothing amazing necessarily, but I still like it because God, see, so far my favorite part has been when Black they showed Diablo. They call him Black. Diablo went and did his thing, and he went to the humans that they're the castle. Um, the hero was trying to explain what thing was going on, and meanwhile, all the other humans are arguing or saying things bad about Tempest, and Black is just getting more and more pissed off. Where he's behind everyone, no one's looking back, but because of his menacing aura that keeps getting more and more and greater, everyone you could see the look of just like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Like, oh my God, he's gonna kill everyone. Oh God, no. Please stop arguing. Shut up. Don't say anything else. Please stop. To the point where the mage dude from the kingdom who has like the immortal body or whatever basically put one of the guys who was being the loudest in an encasement of ice to shut him up, so that way he wouldn't, because the minute he did that, Black immediately settled down. He's like, okay, fine, I'm fine. And he's just like, stop pissing Diablo off. He's gonna kill everyone. um so yeah, I mean, I think I'm what, 4 episodes in so far from the season. Not a whole lot of necessarily huge importance has gone up. They've kind of hinted at a few things that might be on the horizon kind of situation. But for the most part, this has been a lot of just kind of either recap or catching up on what's been going on while we were busy doing other things.
Okay.
Still good. I mean, this is, I'm sure you can agree if you haven't seen it, this is still an amazing show.
Yes.
It deserves all the praise that it gets. Um, for something as ridiculous and simple as it was in the beginning of somebody getting reincarnated as a slime to where it is now, like thinking back to the very first episodes to now is like so different.
Yeah.
It's crazy,
Yeah.
but I still love it. I mean, yeah, it's just, you, this is one that's gone the distance, and we are now officially 52 episodes into this. We were talking about before how we were used to in the old animes of being like 26 to 50, 51 episodes usually kind of situation.
Hmm.
I mean, we're 52 episodes, it's still going, and I feel like we have just deepened our relationship with the characters over time. We have seen so much progression, and it feels like even though we have seen so much progression, there's so much still in front of us, so much that more that could happen. Like the
Yeah.
sky's the freaking limit at this point, you know. We have all the demon lords to handle with now at this point. We have the primordial demons. Like I'm sure there's more. We've only seen Black and for Diablo, and then also I don't know who the other one was, but it's with the other demon lord, the redheaded demon lord. He's got a primordial demon too. I don't know who she is, but I know he's got one. And then there's also the dragons. Like there's more than what's his name that we've
Eldora.
always Beldora, yeah.
Yeah.
There's more than just there's Beldora. There's other dragons too. So I'm like they're going to come into play at some point.
It,
So
it it's very interesting when like we meet these new like bigger than life characters, and like some of the characters that we've been like hanging out with this whole time we're like, oh yeah, him, like, hey, what's up, man? He's like, hey.
true. But just feel all chummy chummy buddy buddy with kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm somewhat caught up after watching the recap. um I do love how this show has like not a ton of loose ends, but like some substantial, like I guess ones that are big, but you also can like forget about them from time to time. Like,
But I also feel like these loose ends are ones where it's like they're loose ends only because they're progressing, and we know we're always going to get back to them.
yes, yes,
'Cause,
like the
I
king
mean,
players.
we know from as far back as all the other animes we've watched, there has been tons of loose ends sometimes, and no resolution for them whatsoever.
Basement.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Exactly,
um,
exactly.
so yeah, like the kids that he was teaching for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
how there's something going on there. Um, like you
I mean,
said, the prime,
yeah,
like
the
the primordial.
primordials,
Yeah, and it's like we have all these like big heavy
the
hitter
masked
demons.
clowns too.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
so far we got reintroduced back to them, but all they've said so far is that they're going to lay low for now and see how things progress. So I'm like, they're a threat. Eventually, they're going to come back into play.
Yeah. Um, and not everybody's maxed out on their upgrades, I don't think.
No,
So it's
I'm sure
like
they could. I'm sure they could go further.
every time they ask the main guy to like name something, I'm like, no, please don't. Like, please stop.
Yeah,
um,
I think we all thought that when he named Diablo.
yeah,
Like, no, don't do it.
yeah, and I got like what do you call it? Like a little bit of PTSD when he's like, "Hey, you should name the new demon group," and I'm like, "No, no, please."
Oh, jeez.
Um, but yeah, like
Yeah, it's funny enough is that they said that too, because he's like, he's great with names. We're like, no, please. Yeah, he's got tons of them, but no, please.
um, yeah, and it's interesting that like the humans are like trying to keep up a little bit with everybody. They're like,
Yeah,
hey,
we're,
can we be
we're still
friends?
here. We're still here. Don't forget about us.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
um,
See, but I think that's also what I like about the show is because there is definitely a different power dynamic and power surge between, but it's like it's not like we just because the humans in that regards are so much weaker that we forget about them.
mhm.
They're still there. We still know they exist. They're still a reoccurring thing. We're just not as concerned all the time about them.
And it's kind of like they're not a threat as far as our forces versus their forces, but they are a threat where, as in, like, somebody went off on a mission and they killed them.
Yeah. Or it just in regards to like, political or, some sort of other, not non-actual physical threat. It's more of just like something behind the scenes or something that, it'll look bad for us if this gets out or if this happens and we have to deal with this kind of situation. So
Yeah.
most of these enemies like that, they only deal with the more of the physical aspect of like, oh, they're going to kill us or this is going to be, happen or whatever. It's like there's more than just the physical aspect, and I appreciate that Slime at least touches on that.
Hmm. I almost forgot about Pointy Knees. That knight that like is going around. She what's the name's friend or something like that.
Which one?
Um, like she's always in the intro with these giant like metal legs and super pointy knees. Um, she was what's the name's friend? Um, the one that he like took the form of.
Oh. Yes, I know what you're talking about. I know you're talking about. Took me a
Yes.
second. But yeah, no, she is also a very important part of this as well.
Yeah, she's right there in the picture at the bottom. Yeah. Um, yeah, like it's yeah. There's like I guess I wouldn't call them loose ends. I would call them threads.
Yeah,
And
and
there's
there
like a
are so many active threads.
yeah. Yeah, man, I can't wait to get back into this because
Yeah, I mean, it's
it's
still after all this time. If you're, let me say this: if you're 52 episodes in, if you're still excited to watch something 52 episodes in, you know something's good.
yeah, like I could easily see this going into like 6 seasons. Like
Oh, easy.
yeah,
I
like
mean, hell, we could get up to 100, and I still wouldn't care.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This show's great. All right, well, that is it for today's episode. There we go. Episode 95 of Monthly Ketchup. Um, yeah, we'll be back next month for our summer upcoming shows.
Sure.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, as always, this is DK and Shade from TacoYaki Anime, and we will see y'all next time.